Good morning, everyone. So this is our first class for professional and technical writing. Okay, so I chose this book, which is called. Um, it is called The Handbook of Technical Writing, and this book is very important because it has gotten the ninth edition, which is very good, I think, and every one of you should have a copy of this book. I think it is very important to have it. So before we start, let me just talk about technical writing in general. This class is a continuation for the previous classes that you took before. I'm pretty sure that most of you, if not all of you, took writing 1 and writing 2 or advanced writing. Now, this class is a continuation for this process of developing your writing skills. And here we specialize in technical writing. Technical writing means that we have to write for specific purposes. For example, if you want to write an email, how do you write an email? If you want to write a complaint letter, how do you write that? If you want to write, for example, an acceptance or rejection letter, how do you do that? If you want to write, for example, an abstract, many people, ask me about how to write an abstract. Abstract is very important, and you need to know what are the components of an abstract. Also, we have to know how to create a brochure or to create posters. If you are hired in any job and someone asks you to write a brochure for them in English, then you are required to do that, and you have to have the basic skills to write a brochure, for example. So there are many things that we will be exposed to, and also I will help you write your resume or CV. Along with that, there will come also the cover letter, which is very important. I think that you should, acquaint yourself with the process of writing a cover letter. Okay, so that's all, for that's the introduction for this class. Today we will start, our class by talking about, the 5 steps for successful writing, or 5 steps to successful writing. Now, here are the 5 steps to for successful writing. I think this PDF will explain these 5 stages in detail. All you need to know is to understand these 5 steps and 5 stages. The first step is the preparation. The second, research. Third, organization. Fourth, writing. And fifth is revision. So these are the steps that you have to take into account to have a very successful writing. First of all, you have to prepare, like you prepare what you need to do and what you need to have in order to succeed in the mission of writing. The second thing is that you have to research the topic. When you write about a topic, you should read about it, and you should inform yourself about the new things that emerged, because without research you will not be able to write a good paper, because you don't have, or you lack the knowledge about this or that topic. So the second stage is to research. Now, after you research, you will have many ideas, many things that in mind, and you need to organize them and put them in order. And once you organize, your points, as if you are making like an outline, you are outlining the points that you are going to talk about. This is organization. Then you start writing, and you just write and write and write. Whatever comes to your mind, just write it down on the page. And once you finish writing, you start the process of revision, because once you finish writing, you have to revise. You have to trim your writing. You have to proofread it and find the mistakes and the awkward sentences to make your writing appealing to the reader. Okay, so we will read quickly through these 5 steps, and we'll explain them in detail. Here, preparation. We'll start with the preparation. Okay. Now, preparation, writing, like most of professional tasks, requires solid preparation. In fact, adequate preparation is as important as writing a draft. In preparation for writing, your goal is to accomplish the following 4 major tasks. And these are the tasks that involve in preparation here, and I have to highlight them here. So the first thing is establish your primary purpose. Now, what does that mean? Establish your primary purpose. It means that you have to have a purpose for writing. You cannot write without a purpose. Now, why do I want to write about, for example, let's say poverty? Simply because I have a purpose that I need to know why we have poor people in my country. So there's a purpose for writing. There's a reason behind why you write this thing. So you have to establish your primary writing purpose. Second, you have to access your audience or reader and the context. Sorry, not access, but assess your audience and reader. What does that mean? It means that you have to decide who is your reader, who's your audience. Now, if you write, for example, about football, okay, or soccer, so these topics, you have to understand that the people who are gonna watch you are the soccer and football matches, okay? If you wanna write about, for example, medicine, most likely the people who are specialized in medicine will be interested in your topic. If you talk about, for example, culture, again, every topic has its own specific audience, and you have to decide who is your audience. Now, determine the scope of your coverage. Now, the scope means that you have to have, the limit, the limit for what you are gonna talk about, okay? Because you cannot talk about something that you cannot cover in your writing. You have to be very logical, and you have to determine the scope. Are you gonna talk about something in terms of social, cultural, literary, scientific, and you have to narrow down your topics until you reach, the specific thing that you are going to talk about. Now, select the appropriate medium. Medium here, we have different mediums that we will talk about later on. Okay, so establish your purpose. To establish your purpose primarily is simply ask yourself what you want your reader to know, to believe, or to be able to do after they finish reading what you have written. Be precise. Often writers state purpose so broadly that it's almost useless. A purpose such as to report on a possible location for a new research facility is too general. However, to compare the relative advantages of Paris, Singapore, and San Francisco as possible location for a new research facility so that the top management can choose the best location is a purpose statement that can guide you through the writing process. Now, look at these 2 examples. These two examples, differentiate between a general purpose and a very specific purpose. Because in the first example, to report on possible locations, here, what locations are you talking about? This is a general, purpose. So you have to be very specific when you talk about a purpose. Look at the second example here. We have a specific, purpose to compare the relative advantages of Paris, Singapore, and San Francisco. And these are 3 major cities all over the world. Paris in Europe, Singapore in Asia, and San Francisco in North America. Okay, in addition to your primary purpose, consider possible secondary purposes for your document. For example, a secondary purpose of the research facilities report might be to make corporate executive readers aware of the staffing needs of the new facilities so they can ensure its smooth operation regardless of the location selected. So here, 2 things. First of all, you have to establish your purpose, and you start establishing your purpose by being, by being very specific, okay? Very specific and focused. Second, there is a primary purpose, okay? And there's also secondary purposes within the main purpose itself. So this depends on the way you look at your writing. Second point, assessing your audience in context. How do you assess your audience in context? The next task is to assess your audience. Again, be precise and ask key questions. Who exactly is your reader? Do you have multiple readers? Who needs to see or to use the document? What are the reader's needs in relation to your subject? What are the attitudes about the subject? Skeptical, supportive, anxious, bored? What do your readers already know about the subject? Should you define basic terminology, or will you will such definitions merely bore or even impede your reader? Are you communicating your international reader, therefore dealing with these issues inherent in the global communication? So these are very important questions that you have to take into account to determine the reader that you are targeting. Once you know who's your reader, then you will be able to write good writing, because this will help you in terms of language, in terms of word choice, in terms of terminology, and in terms of the communication. If you decide that your reader is a 5-year-old kid, then the language has to be similar to that age. If your reader is a very educated person who specializes in, for example, medicine, then your terminology will be different, and the way you talk to these people will be different. And also, you have to take into account the international readers. Okay, now you're using English, but not all readers are native speakers. You have to take into consideration the international readers, and this will be explained later on in this, introduction. Okay. Now, do you remember that the example that we gave before, research facilities report? The readers are described as top management. Who is included in that category? Will one of the people evaluate the report be human resources manager? So here you see that they are determining what audience is yours. Let me ask you this. Now, if I am talking about a literary work, let's say I'm talking about a novel, who's your audience here? How can you determine the audience of writing about a novel? Most likely, when you write about, for example, Charles Dickens' Great Expectations, or write about Shakespeare's play, Macbeth or Hamlet, here your audience is most likely will be English students who are majoring in English language. That's your audience, right? So here we have a specific audience, for you. Okay, now here we have tips on how to consider audience. In the United States, conciseness, coherence, and clarity characterize good writing. These are good things here that you have to take into account. So, okay. So conciseness, coherence, and clarity. Concise, you have to be concise, meaning that you should not talk about anything that is irrelevant to your topic. Coherence, you have to be coherent. You have to make your people understand what you're talking about, okay? And there must be a connection, between paragraphs or among paragraphs. Clarity, you have to be clear. Writing should be clear and understood. In writing, you should not, just show off and try to show people that you are a good writer. We don't want to know that you're a good writer, but we want to know what you are talking about and that your writing is clear. Okay, make sure readers can follow your writing and say only what is necessary to communicate your message. Of course, no writing style is inherently better than another, but to be a successful writer in any language, you must understand the cultural values that underlie the language in which you are writing. Through the book, this is like these are the tips that will help you, consider your audience. Now, determine the scope. This is very important. Determining your scope, determining your purpose, and assessing your readers and context will help you decide what to include and what not to include in your writing. So, if you look at the reader and you look at the context of your writing, then this will lead you to the scope or the boundaries where you can talk about. These decisions establish the scope of your writing project. If you do not clearly define the scope, you will spend needless hours on research because you will not be sure what kind of information you need or even how much. Yani, if you are going to talk about, let's say, tourism, okay, tourism is a very big topic, right? So in order to be able to talk about this topic, you have to determine and establish your scope, okay? And you can say, okay, I'm going to talk about the tourist site in Aqaba. Good, that's here you determine the scope of your writing, and you limit your scope of the writing so that you can talk about it. But you cannot just write about tourism in Jordan, because this will need, lots of lots of time and long hours just to finish, the research. Given the purpose and the audience established for the report on the facility location, the scope would be include such information as land and building costs, available labor forces, cultural issues, transportation, opinion, proximity. Here they use the same example that we talked about facilities. Okay, so again, determining the scope, meaning that you have to decide and limit your research on what you are going to talk about. Now, selecting the medium. Finally, you need to determine the most appropriate medium for communicating your message. Professionals on jobs face a wide array of options for email, fax, voicemails, video conferencing, and websites, to more traditional means like letters, memos, reports, telephones, calls, and face-to-face meeting. The most important consideration in selecting the appropriate medium are the audience and the purpose of communication. Okay, so here the medium here talks about the way you want to deliver your message. What kind of thing that you want to use to deliver the medium? Are you going to use emails? Are you going to use fax, voicemail, video conferencing, websites, or you want to use something traditional like letters, memos, reports, telephone calls, and face-to-face meetings? So these are, different mediums, and you have to and you have to determine the medium to be able to contact the people and to be effective in, delivering your message. Okay. Now, all these things that we mentioned talk about preparation. So preparation, again, you have to do 4 things, and we talked about them here in detail. Establishing your primary purpose, assessing your audience, determining the scope of your coverage, and selecting the appropriate medium. Now, the second stage is to research. Okay. Now, to research, the only way to be sure that you can write about the complex subject is to thoroughly understand it. To do that, you must conduct an adequate research, whether that means conducting an extensive investigation for a major proposal through interviewing, library, internet research, and careful note-taking, or simply checking a company website and jotting down points before you send an email to a colleague. So here, what research means? Research means that you go and try to find the resources that can help you understand the topic. You go to a library, you go to a website, you go to the place itself that you want to talk about, and you start taking notes or note-taking. You see that? Careful note-taking or jotting down the points. So these are note-takings are very important because they will help you build your writing. Methods of research. Now, when you want to research, there are certain methods that you have to do. Researchers frequently distinguish between primary and secondary research, depending on the types of resources consulted and the method of gathering information. Primary research refers to, and here's the definition of primary research, which is the gathering of raw data compiled from interviews, direct observations, surveys, experiment questionnaires, and audio and video recordings. These are, examples of primary research. In fact, direct observation and hands-on experience are the only ways to obtain certain kinds of information, such as the behavior of people and animals, certain natural phenomena, and the operation of system and equipment. Now, the difference between, now here, this is the primary research. Now, what is the secondary research? Secondary research, okay, refers to gathering information that has been analyzed, assessed, and evaluated, compiled, or otherwise organized into accessible form. This is the definition of secondary research. Now, I'll explain this, to you, the difference between primary and secondary research. Now, if you look at primary research, you talk about the thing that you want to talk about. For example, you make interviews, that's your job. You go to direct observations. For example, you go outside and you try to observe. You make surveys, you make experiments, questionnaires, all these things you do them. This is the thing that you do. This is primary research. Now, secondary research is something different. You try to gather information about something that has been analyzed. For example, someone made interview. This interview is a primary research. If you did the interview, then this is your primary research. But if you try to understand or analyze the people and the data that they have after they made the interviews, then this is a primary research. If you do a direct observation, this is primary research. If you try to read about the direct observations that people made before you, then this is a secondary research. So that's the difference between primary and secondary research. And this is, one of the methods of research. Sources of information. I think all of you know how to, what kind of source of information that you can get. As you conduct a research, numerous resources of information are available to you, including the following: your own knowledge and that of your colleagues, the knowledge of people outside your workplace gathered through interviewing for information, internet sources, including websites, dictionaries, archives, and discussion groups, library resources, including database and indices, or the indexes of articles, as well as books and reference books, printed and electronic resources in the workplace, such as various correspondence, report, and web intranet documents. So all these, major points tell you where to get your information. You get your information from the knowledge that you have and the knowledge that your colleagues have. When you do a research, the first thing that you do is that you ask your colleagues, all right? So your colleagues are, part of the source of information. And also you try to gather information from the people that you are interviewing. When you have an interview with someone, then this is a source of information. Internet, sources, you get information from the internet and also from the library and from the printed and electronic sources like the books, etc., etc. Okay, so we finished the first point, which is preparation, and we finished the second one, which is research. Now the third one is organization. Organization, without organization, the material gathered during your research will be incoherent to your reader. To organize your information effectively, you need to determine the best way to structure your ideas. That is, you must choose primary method of development. Okay, so here, the way of organizing your work. Methods of development. An appropriate method of development is the writer's tool for keeping information under control and the reader's mean of following the writer's presentation. As you analyze the information, you have the other choose the method that best suits subject, your reader's need and your purpose. For example, if you were writing instruction for assembling office equipment, you would naturally present the steps of the process in order readers should perform them. The sequential methods of development. If you were writing about the history of an organization, you would naturally go from the beginning to the present, the chronological method of development. If your subject naturally lends itself to a certain method of development, use it. Do not attempt to impose another method. So here we have, two, examples of methods of developments. The first one is the sequential method of the development, and the second one is the chronological. Now, the difference between the sequential method of development and the chronological method of development is that if you were writing instructions for assembling office equipment, you would naturally present the steps of the process in the order readers should perform them. So here, if you read, for example, if you have a table, that you buy a table from IKEA or from a place like that, and you want to assemble or put the table together. So you need to do it in steps, right? Step 1, step 2, step 3. And once you follow the steps, you can do the mission. This is called sequential method of development, that you put things in order to achieve the mission. Now, the chronological method of development is different. This chronological method of development, it depends on the time. Okay, so you start from the past and you go to the present, or from the beginning to the present. So the first one focuses on order, and the second one focuses on time. Often you'll need to combine methods of development. For example, a persuasive brochure for our charitable organization might combine specific general method of development with the cause and effect method of development. That is, you could begin with a persuasive case, history of individual people in need, and then move to general information about the positive effects of donation on recipients. So here, the third one is a kind of a combination of to combine methods of developments. And this is when you combine things, it's called cause and effect development. Okay, so you combine the first two to do the development. So the first, organization, the first one is methods of development. The second one is outlining. Outlining is very important here in the organization. I think every one of you should have an outline when you write something. Once you have chosen a method of development, you are ready to prepare an outline. Outlining breaks large or complex subject into manageable parts. It also enables you to emphasize key points by placing them in the position of great importance. By structuring your thinking at an earlier stage, well-developed outline ensure that your document will be complete and logically organized. Okay. So an outline can be especially helpful for maintaining a collaborative writing teams focus throughout a large project. However, even a short letter or memo needs the logic and structure that an outline provides, whether the outline exists in your mind or on screen or on paper. So here, why we do outlining? Outline breaks larger or complex subject into manageable parts. So simply, when you outline, you simply draw a map of what you are going to do. And this outline can be worked as, as points, 1, 2, 3, 4. And under 1, for example, I have 3 points. Under 2, I have 1 point. Under 3, I have 4 points. So this outline will help you break larger or complex subjects into manageable parts. That's called outlining. At this point, you must begin to consider layout and design elements that will be helpful to your reader and appropriate to your subject and purpose. For example, okay, now here just I want to say that an outline can be either in your mind or on screen or on paper. So you can have online, the way you want it. Some people can make outline in their head. Some people can do it on screen and some people can do it on paper. So that depends on the way you like it. Okay, writing. Now, the next stage is the stage of writing. When you have established your purpose, your reader's need, and your scope, and have completed your research and your outline, you will be well prepared to write a first draft. This is called the first draft. The first thing that you write is called the first draft. Expand your outline into paragraphs. So you remember before we said that you have to write an outline. An outline comes as points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now these points have to be expanded into paragraphs, okay? So expand your outline into paragraphs without worrying about grammar, refinements of language usage, punctuation. Writing and revising are different activities. Now here, this is very important here. You have to differentiate between writing and revising. Writing is to write your thoughts, to put your thoughts in or on the paper. Now, revising is the process where you worry about grammar, punctuation, language usage, etc. So don't conflate or confuse these two things together. When you write, don't worry about, grammar or punctuation or spelling or anything. Just write. Once you finish writing, you go over your writing and you try to, revise it and make it looks good. Writing through draft, concentrate entirely on converting your outline into sentences and paragraphs. So that's for writing. You might try writing as though you were explaining your subject to a reader sitting across from you. Don't worry about good writing. See, now in the writing process, don't worry about good writing. Don't say that I should write good. No, just write, because the later stage will talk about or will focus on refinement, making your writing looks good. Even with good preparation, writing draft remains a chore for many writers. The most effective way to get started and keep going is to use your outline as a map for your first draft. Do not wait for inspiration. You need to treat your writing a draft as you would any on the job task. The entry writing draft describe tactics used by experienced writers. Discover which one are best suited to you and your task. Consider you writing an introduction last, because then you will need more precisely what is in the body of the draft. Okay, this is very important. When you write, always they say leave the introduction until the end. Why? Because the body of your writing will determine the introduction. Because in the introduction, you say something, but in the body, you may change your mind. If you change your mind, then you have to change the introduction. So the best way is to leave the introduction until the end, so you can make your writing looks good. Your opening should announce the subject and give the readers essential background information, such as the document, primary purpose. For long documents, introduction should serve as a frame into which the reader can fit the detailed information to follow. Okay, and then finally you will need to write a conclusion. So again, here these are the stages where you have introduction, body, and conclusion. Remember, these are three things that you have to bear in mind. Let me write this. If I have where is the share screen, whiteboard. So here, where's text? Yeah, here, text. Yeah, here. So when you write an essay or a letter, you have to have three components. The components are, first, the introduction, second, the body, three, the conclusion. The introduction, the body, and the conclusion. So these are the components of a good writing, okay? So you have to have these in mind when you start writing. Okay, all right, where's the share screen? Here is the topic. Now the final stage, which is revision. The clear and finished writing seems to the reader. The more effort to the writer has likely put into the revision. If you are followed follow the steps of the writing process to this point, you will have a rough draft that needs to be revised. So if you have these four stages, the preparation, the research, the organization, and the writing, then the last stage is the revision, which is to look for grammar, punctuation, etc., etc. During the revision, be eager to find and correct faults, and be honest. Be hard on yourself for the benefits of your reader. Read and evaluate the draft as if you were a reader seeing it for the first time. Check your draft for accuracy, completeness, effectiveness, achieve your purpose, and meet your reader's need and expectation. Trim extraneous information. Your writing should give readers exactly what you need, but it should not burden them with unnecessary information or sidetrack them into loosely related subjects. So simply try to refine your paper. This is what they say here. You should refine your paper. Do not try to revise for everything at once. Read your rough draft several times. Each time look for and correct a different set of problems or errors. Concentrate first on larger issues such as the unity, coherence, such as mechanical correction, like spelling, punctuation. For later proofreading, see also ethics of writing. So here, these are things that you should worry about when you do the revision. Look for the unity. Unity means that is your writing connected and communicative and related. Coherence means that is it communicative and when you read it you feel like it's organized. And then you have to look for mechanical corrections such as spelling. Do you have any spelling mistakes, punctuation mistakes? And then you have the proofreading, which is the last stage of writing. Finally, for important document, considering having other reviews you're writing and make suggestions for improvement. For collaborative writing, of course, team members must review each other's work on segment of the document as well as final master draft. And here, this is very good, because you do the revision for your writing, but the best way is to ask for someone else to read your paper and revise it for you, because they will see something that you could not see, or they can see something that you may not see. So this is very important for you to do this. Okay, so just read this, just reading. Yeah, and here, checklist of the writing process. Here, this is a kind of, you know, a summary of the things that we discussed here. Preparation, research, organization, writing a draft, revision. These are some of the things that can, you know, like, you know, this, like, you know, a guideline for us that what we have discussed for today. Okay, that's all for today, guys. Thank you very much for listening, and I will upload this to YouTube and to e-learning. Thank you very much.